Acknowledge and pay respects to all Nurrakai, past and present. Acknowledge all other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here tonight, and acknowledge all other people who have joined us here. Yada Gayagu Darkanang Nyira. Welcome to Darkanang country.
Hello, I'm Phil Moore. Welcome to the Litmus Test, the show for the creative community. Today we've got a great show lined up for you. It's all about the performing arts, theatre, dance. We've got a great panel coming up, but first, let's open the show with Just Between Us. Take it away, girls.
You know everything about me, from my head to my toes. I never even noticed when you borrow my clothes. You never get sick of listening to all my troubles. I thought this friend thing would be quite a struggle. You make it easy. You make it easy. You make me laugh a little louder, smile a little brighter. There's no one like you. Live a little better, cry a little lesser. Don't know what I'd do. Laugh a little louder, smile a little brighter. There's no one like you. Laugh a little better, cry a little lesser. Don't know what I'd do without a friend like you. We're the only ones that put up with the trash we talk, and no one even knows about the guys we stalk. I can't get mad at you for too long, 'cause the stuff I need to say, like when will I see you? Oh, that's right, the very next day. The very next day. You make me laugh a little louder, smile a little brighter. There's no one like you. Live a little better, cry a little lesser. Don't know what I'd do. Laugh a little louder, smile a little brighter. There's no one like you. Live a little better, cry a little lesser. Don't know what I'd do without a friend like you. Even though we have our little fights, you always know how to make it right. And I know we're not family, but you're just like a sister to me. You make me laugh a little louder, smile a little brighter. There's no one like you. Live a little better, cry a little lesser. Don't know what I'd do. Laugh a little louder, smile a little brighter. There's no one like you. Live a little better, cry a little lesser. Don't know what I'd do without a friend like you. Without a friend like you.
That was Just Between Us. They'll be back to close the show with another song at the end of the show. But for now, I'm going to welcome our panel, our theatre panel. And I have sitting to my left here Pippa Grandison.
Hello.
Hello, Pippa. Star of Australian stage and screen for, I won't say how long, but
No, don't please.
most recently you played Mrs. Banks in the hit musical Mary Poppins.
For musical theatre, most recently, yes.
Yeah, and Elphaba, is it?
Elphaba.
Elphaba in Wicked. And lots of films. Muriel's Wedding, Dating the Enemy, Hotel de Love, Over the Hill. Lots of stuff. So welcome, Pippa.
Thank you.
We also have Krin Bajough, 5 times Australian salsa champion and the founder and director of the Central Coast of Central Coast Dance, the largest Latin dance school on the Central Coast. Hello, Krin.
Thank you.
Next to me here, I have Ros English. Ros.
Hello.
I just want to make sure I get your bio right. Former president of Gospel Musical Society. You left very recently. Music teacher.
No, I'm president. I've been president.
You're currently president.
10 years I've been president.
Still president of Gospel Musical Society, music teacher, and you've been involved in music, arts, entertainment for the last 30 years here on the Central Coast.
Yes.
And we have Tim Page next to you. Tim has been involved teaching musical theatre and vocals, vocal tutor,
That's right.
head of the vocal program at the Central Coast Conservatorium, and you've appeared in London's West End in several productions, but perhaps you're best known here for playing Dr. Graham on The Young Doctors.
That's right.
Way back.
Way back.
Welcome, Tim.
Thank you.
Now, it's normal practice for us here. We ask, just to introduce everyone properly, that you bring a little random relic with you, a little item. So I'm coming back around to you, Pippa.
All right.
What have you got to show us?
I have. I don't know how random it is, but this is my little Buddha, and I take him with me on tour. He sits in every dressing room that I have on my desk, along with photos of my family, of course. But he's been with me for a very long time, and it's to help me stay calm and focused. And when that doesn't work, I chuck him across the room and try something else. So that's my little theatre protector.
So one way or another, he keeps you calm.
He can do it. If I rub his belly, apparently that's supposed to work. But
You might
would you like to try it?
The other way.
Other way? Is there a way?
The other way.
I know when you've got a baby, you're supposed to rub their tummy a certain way when they've got a tummy ache, but...
Have you ever felt maybe you should get a bigger Buddha to make it calm?
It's so heavy in the bag, though. These days you're only allowed, 25 kilos or something? It's ridiculous. Yeah,
Right.
so that's mine.
There you
Okay,
go.
thank you. Krin, have you got something to show us?
Yeah, well, so that's a picture of me and my dance partner, and that's just when we came off the stage, so there it is, and we came second in the World Salsa Championships in Puerto Rico.
Wow.
And the reason why this is especially important, and I keep it with me on my phone, is that was the first time I competed for about seven years, since 2007. So 6
So it's
years.
the first time
6
you
years,
competed,
yeah.
came second, and since then you've won 5 times.
I've won 5 times before that, and I took a break to focus on the dance studio and come back up here on the Central Coast from Sydney and run Central Coast Dance, and that was the first time I competed in about 6 years. And then we came second at the
So
World.
you still got it.
I still got it, yeah, and that was a big deal for me. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Ros, what have you got to show us?
Well, I brought along my Gosford City Council Australia Day Award for my contribution to arts, culture and entertainment on the Central Coast. It's pretty special.
Yeah.
So when did you receive that?
This year, 2015.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
yep, it's very new and sparkly. It's very nice.
Very sharp and dangerous too, by the look of it. Tim, what have you got to show us?
Well, I brought along the score script of The Magic Flute, which is what the Conservatorium is going to be doing as an opera production early next year, and I'll be directing that. And I've also done the translation into the New English version. And I suppose my first job in the theatre actually was in the chorus for an opera company in New Zealand. So I was 19. So opera's been a big part of my life, so I really love it.
And you did the translation for this one.
Yes. So
Was that a big job?
it's a big job to make it rhyme and scan and do all that, then tell the story smoothly and lift the characters off the page and all that sort of thing. Yeah.
Okay, terrific.
It's a great expression, isn't it? Lift the characters off the page.
The characters off the page.
By Mr. Page.
We have a few news items which I'm going to get to, so let's run the news bumper. Now we have 3 news items. 2 of them are not theatre related, but I'd like to get your input on these anyway. The first one actually is local Wyong City Council are setting up a website on like an online TV channel called Wyong Alive, and it's Wyong Shire's learning community strategy. So the idea is that anyone can upload a video to this online channel, any video that's about the local community, about something in the Wyong Shire area. I run a film course here on the coast. We're going to be running it again very soon with Metro Screen, and they actually invited that we're going to be making lots of little documentaries as part of that course, and they'll be part of this Wyong Alive website as well. So anyone who is interested in video making, especially if you want to make a video about your local community, about someone interesting in your community, have a look at the Wyong Shire website, which is wyong.newsouthwales.gov.au, and maybe you can upload it to Wyong Alive and get the world to have a look at it.
There you go.
In other news, I found this really interesting. This comes from ABC. Australian live music has pumped to the tune of nearly $15.7 billion into the economy last year, which is massive. Live music generates $15.7 billion, creating 65,000 full-time and part-time jobs across the country. Basically means for every dollar spent on concerts, $3 goes back to the wider community. Now, about a third of that is in food, in catering, in, what you buy at the venue or in restaurants near the venue. Another massive chunk of that is in accommodation and travel, people who go to long distances and stay overnight to go to a venue. So the downside of this, however, though, and we had this discussion in our music show recently, with that much money being generated, not much of it is actually going to the musicians. You still struggle to make a living as a musician, unless you're one of the big acts, of course. So the music industry is generating nearly $16 billion a year, and you struggle to make a living as a musician. What do you think of this?
Less good, really, isn't it?
It's good that we're making the money, but why isn't it getting back to the people who actually make the music?
It's a good question. It's been going on for a long time. I know for myself in the industry, I've worked as a musician or a singer, let's say, sometimes, and other times as an actor purely, and then sometimes I mix the two in musical theatre. So I'm working for different companies at different times. When I work in musical theatre, I work for big corporations, and so I'm on a good wage, so there's my feast. And then when I'm doing gigs at the local pub or wherever, because I want to keep my creative juices flowing, I'm in famine.
Even though the pub's making money and the restaurants nearby.
Well, that's
making
right.
money
It's always a struggle to push for that little bit more, and I think there aren't many venues around. There aren't many gigs to be had. So a lot of people just want to keep playing. They want to keep performing, and so they'll take what they can get.
I think that's what's changed though since the 70s, when just about every pub had an entertainment room and there were bands everywhere. It seems to have shrunk down.
It's shrunk enormously.
Because of noise, I believe. Is that one of the
I guess a lot of the time.
And pokies, I think.
And maybe close to residential areas too. A lot of the time they have to keep it down, keep quiet.
Yeah. Alcohol too.
But then a lot of places say, well, we've got a lot of clientele coming in. Why do we need live music? Why do we need to pay that money to musicians? We can just pump out music from a CD, from our stereo
get a
system.
DJ or something.
Because we're still getting enough money over the bar. So, you will get the occasional venue that loves music and thinks it's great, and their clientele really do enjoy a live show, which is great, but they're few and far between.
Well, you're right. This was the case when the pokies came in. We don't need it. We're making money off the pokies.
Well, they call pokies entertainment now.
I know, it's frightening, really, isn't it?
That's scary.
Yeah.
Or one solo singer-songwriter with a little drum machine or something is enough, rather than a live band. But I think live bands are coming back. We had this discussion, and the big thing was that if they play covers, they're popular. That will bring the crowds in. But whatever it is, even when they bring the crowds in and the crowds spend their money, not enough of it's going back to the musos.
No.
So this study proves there is money in the music industry. People do want to go and see live music. Just the venues really, I think the musicians need to say, fine, this proves it. You're making money off us. Give us our fair share.
I think there's so many components though, isn't there, normally that go into a performance. When a musician's there, you've got sound guys, you've got makeup people. Unless you're a single doing a gig on your own in a pub.
Well, this actually comes to our next story, which is theatre oriented. Perth Theatre Company. They were recently going to do a production of Mice and Men, the John Steinbeck play. It was going to cost them $500,000 to stage this show. They were getting good ticket sales. It was going to be one of their more popular shows for the year, but they've cancelled it because they rely on at least $250,000 of sponsorship, which they weren't getting. They weren't getting any private sponsors. And so they made the decision to cancel the show because it wasn't going to be financially viable. Even though it's a popular play, they were selling tickets already, and they said, we can't survive the year if we continue with this show, and they just cancelled it. And this is a professional theatre company in Perth.
What theatre company is that?
The Perth Theatre Company.
The Perth Theatre Company.
Yeah.
Okay. So not Black Swan, is that what you mean?
I don't know very much about. It says here it's Perth Theatre Company, the PTC, and that's the name of the company. Yeah. He said in the last few months the company had noticed that WA companies, large and small, were less willing to donate to the arts. This is Dr. Sazine who runs it. We think it might be symptomatic of what's happening in the broader economy in Western Australia. Is this symptomatic of the broader theatre economy in Australia and here on the coast perhaps?
Phil, if I can say something. While we don't look at a theatre kind of way, we don't do a lot of theatre productions. I am involved in the Australian Latin Dance Championships, and having a competition to the size that it's in 4 states now, we really needed to get sponsors involved. And this year, more than any other year, I was there kind of knocking in everybody, you know, to the extent that a day before the comp, the finals, we actually got K-Force on board, which is a new breast mint on board. I was knocking down everybody's door to do it. And, you know, we had sponsors pull out last minute. It's a really tough gig to try to get sponsors to give you money unless you have got 20,000-30,000 people coming to your event, or you've got a massive social media following, you know, and they're looking at the return. So the
return, exactly.
the return on investment. That's
Well, it's
basically what
you're
they're
running a
looking at.
business
Well, that's the
after all.
thing, it is a business. If you're putting your own show on, which I've done many times as well with groups, I was a part of a theatre company called Hair of the Dog, and we did a lot of co-op theatre down in Sydney. But we had to gather the funding ourselves, you know, but for us, we were hungry for it. It was our baby. We had our own love in it, and if we didn't make any money out of it, we were going to be okay with that. But as you say, big companies, or those that can't really absorb a loss, are going to cut and run. If
And
they
you've
don't
worked on
think-
some bigger shows that had been in this same situation. They rely on that sponsorship, those ticket
Well, they
sales.
do. I mean, even I'm about to do Georgie Girl, the musical, which we just launched in Melbourne on Monday. And it looks like that's going to go quite well. That's got a big following, but you never know. There are Jekyll and Hyde was announced, and that's now been canned as well. And that's Frost. That's massive. But he won't go ahead with that because the sales weren't coming in. So he's going to pull it out. And all of those people who've said no to other jobs because they wanted to do Jekyll and Hyde are now left with nothing. It happens all the time.
How far into rehearsal did they get?
I'm not. I don't know
They'd
actually.
certainly cast it, but they.
I don't think
they'd
they'd started. I don't think
Okay.
they'd started.
But
But
now-
often
But even the
you'll do a
pre-sales-
season and they'll pull out halfway through the season and
Yeah.
say we're not going any further.
Yeah.
So and they don't have to pay you out. So anything you've missed out on is you need to sit there for the next year till the next thing comes.
So even those pre-sales weren't enough. You think this probably won't fly. Let's stop it now. Yeah.
But you
It's a
find,
risk. It's
sorry.
always,
Yes.
always a risk. We did Jekyll and Hyde at Musical Society a few years ago, and we often find that with a show that's not well known, we put it on our first production week, and if the public like it, it sells really like hotcakes after that, the following week, the next couple of weeks of the run. We've just done that with Legally Blonde actually, and it's just people need to feel comfortable with what they're coming to. You know what I mean? It's not
Yeah.
the big names, the big shows, Mary Poppins, Phantom of the Opera. Those things sell very easily because of the name of the show.
Well, I want to talk a bit
So-
about the theatre community here on the coast. And to introduce that, though, we've got a package we put together interviewing a few local luminaries in the local theatre. So let's just run that now and have a look.
What do you think the future of Australian theatre is?
Grim.
Grim?
Grim. I think the professional companies now, the costs have gone through the roof. The costs for insurance, the costs for touring, everything's gone through the roof. And so they play it safe.
Right.
It's very difficult, I think, for anyone to get an original play on stage now. And the same ones turn up over and over again.
It's almost safe, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I suppose the new writers are going into film.
Yeah.
I don't know about theatre. John Bell survives with Shakespeare. The broadcasts of National Theatre at the Evoca keep your hope alive. But I think it's going to be in the capital cities.
Yep.
I think the big theatre companies will only survive in capital cities.
Well, at the moment, it's in a tough place. There's the funding's not there. It's hard to get bums on seats. Everyone's competing for that dollar. So hopefully, our artists don't leave. They stay in Australia. They stay around here, and they start to create and inspire. And we are also creating the next generation of artists too, which we do at NAISDA.
Look, the future of Australian theatre, I think, is secular.
Well, it's not for a lack of talent, is it?
No, I think there's some holes. One thing that goes really well here is the Calendar Girls style of show and, the lighter comedy, professionally done. Yeah. And of course, the professional companies are looking to create tours that are financially viable, and that's got to be a good thing. So I don't know there's any magic answer.
No, I think amateur theatre has morphed into community theatre.
Yes.
Which is, and it's, mainly it costs a lot more. You can't do it anymore as a hobby. You really can't make sets out of cardboard and use clothing from Vinnie's. You can do it as a bit of fun for a school fundraiser or something, but you really can't run a theatre company that way anymore. No, nowadays if you're going to be a theatre company, you're a community theatre company. And you've got to raise the money. And you've got to have somewhere to live and somewhere to work.
And if you owned it, it would be a good start.
And you've got to own it. Governments, councils, whatever, they don't want to spend money on something that's just practical.
Right.
They wouldn't subsidise you for a shed, right? They'd subsidise you for something like this, which had wall-to-wall carpet and leather chairs and, beautiful bar, looked like a leagues club. That's what they see funding as.
Yeah.
Whereas, imagine what you could do with this. It was a big black space with a concrete floor.
Yeah. Why is there no permanent dance company, professional dance company here on the coast?
Oh, I mean, there could be lots of reasons. I think dance is pretty strong on the Central Coast. I think dance companies comes down to, where people are and where people are inspired. And most dancers, if they grow up on the Central Coast, move to Sydney or to other places to broaden their experiences. I think that, at NAISDA, we've got people coming back to the Central Coast. So I think it's only a matter of time that something will happen here. But, dance is a pretty immediate thing, and it's happening in the cities and around the world in all different places. So people come and go and, around the place. So maybe in time. There's also the element of funding. Funding's very hard to get by. There's not that much money out there in the arts budget. And we all know that, governments are cutting back, and the arts is one of those sectors that is getting cut back, unfortunately.
And why do you not think there's any professional companies here on the coast?
Well, to mount a professional company is really a big deal. You've got to have the staff and you've got to pay the staff. So you're looking at a fair amount of money. I guess I'd have to question whether the wonderful ratepayers of our LGA, when there is so many areas of the LGA to cover, would really support that. But the standards of some of the community work being done by Woy Little Theatre and Gosford Musical Society and our LGA and in Wyong, their local groups, goes some way to that. What we've looked at doing here at Laycock Street is to start to activate or reactivate the Don Craig Room, which is our little performance space, 110 seats. We have the venue and the technicians and the know-how, and they have the shows. And one example I would cite as that is Civic Melancholy, which was Art Central funded. Cut a long story short, we did stage it here and in Wyong. It was a fantastic success.
Anyone involved with performing arts always gets so angry that they don't get as much credibility as sport.
Right.
When you think of the money that is spent on sporting fields that sit there most of the time, and you sort of say, wouldn't it be nice if we had just a little studio or a little theatre? No, we can't afford that sort of thing. And yet on the coast, I wouldn't mind betting there are far more people involved in theatre and music and dance and film than there are in sport.
Right.
And that's including the audiences.
Okay, so one of the questions I wanted to ask you all, given what we just were talking about, you were saying how even with Jekyll and Hyde, you had trouble, getting it out there. Is there any way of getting original musicals done, or original theatre done?
Very difficult from say GMS point of view, and just getting back to the what we were talking about before about the costs of shows. Operational costs are what killed. I mean, they're the things that are always first consideration for us. We're all volunteers; nobody gets paid in GMS, and but we still have most of our shows have a budget of about 110, sometimes up to 150,000. For an amateur, a community theatre company, that's quite significant.
GMS is the biggest community theatre on the Central Coast, with those sort of budgets that you just said. We don't have professional theatre here on the coast.
No.
Why don't we? Why can't we have at least one professional theatre on the coast? Is it not financially viable at all?
Well, I'd say you need some funding, council funding, and I haven't been on the coast for very long, so I'm a little ignorant with exactly how it works up here, but I know it's hard to get people to part with their money, as we were talking about before, if they don't think they'll get a return, but since I've been here, I've really discovered this kind of wonderful village tribal kind of feel that's going on up here, for want of a better way of explaining it, but there are so many creative people up here, and people really want to get amongst things, and I think new, innovative theatre would have an audience here. It's just about how do you get it to that audience? I think pre-publicity would probably be the key, to let them have a little taster of things so they see what it's like and become interested and think, oh yeah, I'll go and have a look at that. Maybe some cut down versions of the performance for free here or there for tasters. I mean, you'd have to have someone marketing it, but I do think a theatre company up here, a professional theatre company up here would do really, really well. But you'd need funding, and you'd need to be able to get it to the people. And because there are so many creative people up here who would love to come and see stuff. People come and see your shows, they don't want to necessarily go down to Sydney. They might every now and then, once a year or something, but all the artists and the musicians and the actors, they're coming out of the woodwork now, the actors that I know that have been hiding up here. I'm like, what are you doing here?
Yes.
But I think it would be really, maybe being idealistic about it, but I do think that there is a place for it. But yes, funding.
We've had the same discussion with music and film, all the talent here, and they end up all working in Sydney and living up here.
Guilty.
Yes. The other thing is that there is a touring thing especially with Laycock Street, where they get ballet plays that are done specifically by companies that just do the regional.
The regional.
So we get professional theatre and dance at those venues, but they're not local companies.
No, they're all important.
So you get the Bell Shakespeare as well, which is really good sometimes.
Well, that's fine. That's good to have. Sure. Is it not possible, from your experience in doing community theatre, that we could actually run a profitable professional company?
I think it'd be extremely difficult, to be quite honest. We sell about 21,000 seats a year, and over the last, say, 8 years, I think it's about 8 years, our occupancy has been about 92.6, which is
good.
Pretty good.
Very good.
Yeah, for a community theatre. But I think it's because lots of things. I mean, we've got the talent and the people, but because it's community, and we don't have to pay the big salaries to people. We don't, and I think that's the area.
So with that,
where you're going to have to get your funding to pay the actors and people to be on stage.
Right, so you're covering costs and everything, yes?
Yes, we are. Yes,
and you're making
one show funds the next.
And you're making a tidy profit. But if you had to pay cast and crew professional rates, it just wouldn't be able to happen.
Because Laycock Street Theatre's our home, we pay all the operational expenses, the things we pay for the sound techs and all of those sorts of things.
So the technical crew get paid?
All the tech, yes,
the
because they belong, no,
right.
just the technical, the sound and the lighting and things.
So they come with the theatre?
They come with the theatre, right. Yeah. Everything else, all backstage crew and orchestra and things we provide out, we supply ourselves.
Once again, pardon my ignorance, but how big is the Laycock? It's about a 300-seater or something?
396 to be exact.
Right, okay. Yeah. So if a theatre company got started up here and wanted to hire Laycock, presumably it would be too expensive for them to make any money, because they don't have enough seats in there really to make a return.
I think that's exactly it, and it's a critical mass that you don't have. You don't have the opportunity for, unless you do a number of shows, and then the number of shows. I mean, you really just got to do.
What about a
sums
smaller
and
company
work
using
out.
a smaller venue like Woy Little Theatre or something like that?
Beautiful theatre too.
It is, and yes, acoustically and everything. It's a really good little theatre. Again, I think you have to do your sums. You really just have to do the sums, and you have to think about. See, there's only normally you can get away with just one tech and that sort of thing. You've got less expenses out there, but you've only got 120 seats in the theatre.
Well, I bring this up because going to what you were saying before. The councils are supporting the arts because they're both building massive venues at the moment.
So I believe. What's
Wyong's
happening with
building
that?
it, and Gosford has plans to.
Yes. Yeah.
And we had this discussion earlier. It's like, are they going to be white elephants? Is there going to be enough theatre and shows and music to fill these and make them profitable?
I think it'll be a matter of how they're used, and it'll be what Pip says about getting the word out there. You know, and those theatres, the main theatre in the Central Coast, the Gosford one, will be 1,000 seats, and so that will be different from what we do, from what's here at the moment. You'll have big shows, and I think you know, you probably have, I don't know, I'm just trying to think of a group or a single act who would come here and attract people to come to the Central Coast.
Well, if we had one of the...
In conjunction with that, you'd have to provide somewhere for accommodation.
Yeah.
And like they do with the Hunter, you know, and encourage people to come and stay.
But would those,
as part of the
are those theatres planned to be theatres that will take a play and a musical as well, or are they being built specifically for concerts? Will there, be senior?
The Gosford one, bit of both.
Yeah, but not necessarily musicals, because there's no music, there's no orchestra
There's no pit.
Yeah,
No, this is the concert.
And that's what you
breaks
think.
my heart.
Well,
but
look,
there's
some
no pit.
theatres you can actually, it's not ideal for the musicians or the performers, particularly not for the conductors that I've spoken to, but you can have the band backstage if you've got good monitors. It's not fantastic, but it can be done.
Oh, we've done that lots of times. We had when we did Cats, we had the orchestra side stage because, we had
But
to
to
use
fill
the
a venue
orchestra.
like that, you'd need a big show that might normally be done in Sydney, and try to attract an audience from Newcastle and Sydney regions to come here, rather than us having to go there.
The other thing is to do the long paddock thing. If a theatre company got together and got a play going, do it at Laycock Street and other big regional theatres as well. Do what the other producers are doing. I guess we could form our own company to do that.
Well, yeah.
That would be something I could think
And
of.
I think,
that we
as you were
could do.
saying too, Ros, that you put your shows on and kind of you can see if people are liking it, the word gets out. So is it a big word of mouth kind of spread up here on the coast? So the seasons need to be a decent length. So potentially your first couple of weeks would be a little bit slow, but don't panic, keep going and get word of mouth out. Because if you've got a short season, I know from co-ops in things that I've done down in Sydney, if the season is short, you find people saying, I'm coming. No, you're not. I told you it closes. I've told you it's closed.
What do you
so it needs to be longer because people drag the chain, they read the reviews, they wait. Oh, it'll be on for a while. They need to know.
In which case, how can they survive that first month with half houses or less?
So you need to kind of bank on
you build it in
that loss and then hopefully pick it up. Yeah,
that's part of doing
kind of the
numbers. You've got to
insurance.
build.
I want to get you into this, Krin. From the dance perspective, is there enough venues, is there enough performance opportunities for dancers here on the coast and dance companies?
There, on the Central Coast, there's so much talent when it comes to dance, but we are losing them. We're losing them to Melbourne, we're losing them to Sydney. And as far as live entertainment, look, we look at it on a Latin point of view, Latin dance point of view, but we are reaching out to a lot of the community. We're actually going to be setting up the first Latin dance, Central Coast Latin Dance Festival up here, but just keeping the dancers. A lot of the times we actually get some of our dancers from Sydney and bring them up here. And most of them, Cinta was actually from the Central Coast, and now she's moved down to Sydney after being, on X Factor and a few others. So it's interesting to hear that that the council is investing in 1,000 seats.
1,000 seats, yeah.
That's just Gosford. Wyong's doing one as well.
Yeah, that's in Gosford. How are they going to fill those seats, and what's the
I think
medium?
that it has changed. Is that the conservatorium you're thinking about?
No, the main theatre is 1,000 seats.
Oh.
Yeah.
There's
There's
concert
two or
hall.
three
There's a little.
venues.
There's a
They're
little.
talking about reducing it
a
to a
black box.
500 seat.
There's a little black box.
I can tell you from
50.
working with council in regards to Manly, when I had a studio in Manly, sometimes it's, not having a dig at Gosford Council, but it's sometimes easier to work with the council working behind you in regards to getting these live events out or community events out, whether it is theatre or festivals or performing arts or whatever. And we really do need to reinvest on the Central Coast.
Well, are there enough? We've talked about these two new venues. There's the new theatre that's been set up at Central Coast Grammar School, which is a really nice venue, and we had the Laycock. Are there enough variety of venues, like little theatres, little places that people can go to? Or are we sort of just building too many big places?
There's the arts workshop in the middle of Gosford here. I'm not sure what it's called. The Youth on the Streets or something type place.
No,
but it's upstairs. It's a venue, I think, that seats about 150 people maybe. But it's a, what's it called?
Regional Youth Support Scheme.
Thank you, from the audience.
And they sort of have bands, but they have other artistic things there as well. The Con uses it for some of their jazz and contemporary concerts and things.
Does the Con let anybody use their concert hall for anything else at all?
But it's
only about 75 seats, isn't it?
72,
at the little hall at the Conservatorium.
So even for musical theatre, I'd like to see more musical theatre done here, apart from what you guys do at GMS and what Wyong occasionally do, the Wyong, their musical society. But more of the kind of stuff that you're doing, Pippa, get some bigger productions, some bigger, more professional productions up here as well. Or even little, because there's lots of wonderful little musicals that don't need a big production.
GMS wouldn't touch because they like to have the big
exactly
cast to get
and
the bums
original
on
shows,
chairs.
because GMS relies on doing established shows. You kind of have to a large extent. Apart from Troy, Paris rather.
Paris,
which was an original first production a few years ago.
If I can just digress for a sec, as far as our program's concerned, we operate on a matrix for shows, selecting our shows, and we've got on an average about 400 members. And the shows that we do, we choose for our members, so that each of our members will have the opportunity to take part in one show each year. For example, this jacket was made for a show called 70 Girls 70. And the average age of that cast was about 63. It's also known as Make Mine Mink. It's hilarious, and this was I'm wearing this because I wore it in that show. It was wonderful. But that year we did things like we had Rent out at Woy Woy, we did West Side Story, we had can't think what the others were because it's a few years now. But what we do is select our shows rather than. For the community, we make sure that we have a show that all of our members can.
So you have other considerations
as well.
Quite
a complex process selecting the shows. So we look at the genre, the style, the age and degree of difficulty. If there's anything like Beauty and the Beast and those sorts of things, and Phantom, all of those.
And
you
prefer the bigger shows because there's more roles then for people.
Yes. Well, but sometimes, for example, the Addams Family's only got a relatively small show, and that's its cast. That's on next year.
Okay.
70 Girls only had about, I think, 38 or something in the cast. Like a big cast for us is about 50 odd.
Because there's many good shows that are 4 or 5 people.
Yes.
There are little musical shows too.
But look, I think I've to digress as well in a way. Since I've been up here, my husband and I have been doing a bit of teaching, which is a new thing for us, but we've come to quite enjoy it. And I have quite a few HSC drama students, and I've been really amazed at the talent and at the interest that they have in still going forward with this craft of acting, with all of the social media, with all of the I can record my own song, get it on iTunes, get famous, this, that and the other. There are still a large number of students that I see that come in to my home and we just do fantastic work together, and they're so alive, and they want to do new things, and they want to explore all different pieces of theatre. And for that age group, to potentially be putting some stuff on. And if there was a young theatre company as well to balance out age-wise and looking at your audience and who you want to pitch to, some really exciting creative stuff could happen.
This was my next topic I want to talk
Which
about.
could bring the younger audiences in potentially and see how cool theatre can actually be. It doesn't, I mean, look, I prance about in costumes like this all the time, but I
Like
also
this?
really, I've been in something a little later than that, I think, but it hurt just as much as that looks like it would. Through the corsets. But I think there is so much edgy, exciting stuff, and kids these days want to feel like they're edgy. They want to feel like they got something to say, you know, that the parents don't understand. And there's another way of keeping it alive and getting people in.
Well, this happens with music, happens with theatre. When the young generation come through, they want to do something, put on a show, find a venue, you know, just go out and do it kind of
Do
thing.
something new.
And write your own show. Or
Incorporate
find something,
music
yeah.
in it. Incorporate live footage in it. You know, there's so many different creative things that we could be doing. But once again, who's going to fund it?
Yeah.
Mum and Dad? You know,
Largely.
your uncle.
Not
Yeah,
in
we've
the
all been
centre
there.
coast.
You know.
Yeah.
Well, I
Now,
have. It's
many of you who have taught or are teaching, let me talk about training and skills training for the moment on the coast. We've got lots of schools doing theatre and dance and that kind of thing, aimed at the little kids, at high school kids. There are a couple of schools that focus on more professional studies, theatre skills. But do we have the right kind of venues, I think, out here, the right kind of schools teaching the right kind of skills to get people into professional theatre training?
I think it's starting. I think you're working with Nate, aren't you?
Yes,
Yeah.
I know Nate Butler is starting up a studio, and I've been working at Lee Academy, which is essentially a dance
Lee's the
academy.
one I was thinking of in particular, yeah.
They are a dance academy essentially, and they have some incredible dancers there and teachers, choreographers. And I'm teaching acting there and musical theatre, and I've been doing that for, I don't know, about a year and a half or something now. But that's just me. I'm just one person there, you know. But once again, we get a small amount of time with the actors. It's very hard to, if they're considering having a career and they want to have a diverse skill set, if most of their time is spent dancing and only a little bit spent on the craft of acting or singing, then there's going to be an imbalance unless someone is naturally really talented and they don't have to try too hard, you know. So it'd be nice to see a balanced kind of school where there, you know, those who want to major in dance can do predominantly dance, and those who want to major in acting or musical theatre can do that. I haven't seen that, but I'm not saying that it doesn't exist up here.
So for musical theatre like you're doing, is there anywhere, Lee's the one I was thinking of, that do the triple threat? Is there anyone that teaches that properly?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, as a triple threat course which I run. And we specialise in, well, particularly we feel the niche that students are not dance specialists.
Great.
But there's a lot of dance schools that do music theatre as a sort of add-on, and we're saying no, we're looking at for singers and actors who would like to move and have the physicality.
That's what we're actually called. You need to fill out your form. Are you a dancer or a mover?
Yeah. So, and we've got some people that have had dance experience as well, but and we do right from 12 years old up to.
So acting is a
50s.
core part as well, is it?
Yep, acting,
Right.
singing, and dancing. Yeah, and we do good work too.
I'm
They
sure
do.
you do.
Yes, you do. Yeah, it's good.
So if you
We-
seek
we
it
do-
out, you can find it.
Yeah.
So sorry, what you were
Yeah, I was
saying?
going to say we have an education internal sort of a system where if we have a director, Chris King's directing Mary Poppins, and he's got one or two people working with him to learn the craft, and we have a musical director who will have an assistant with him and a vocal coach and that sort of thing. So we are now, where we used to just have a little team of 3 before as a production team, some of our prod teams now are up to probably 10 or so.
Taking on apprentices kind of.
Yes, and
yeah.
we're actually filtering back the knowledge back into our members and our juniors, and the juniors actually do 2 shows a year with their own junior directors, and they've come through the ranks usually. I mean, we've had a lot of people that have come through GMS that have gone on to professional things. Michael Beckley, who's in Home and Away, Sonia Kruger, Julia Morris, who else?
Ben Stevens.
Ben Stevens even, he was the Phantom last year. And we've got some of our children who, one of our little boys was Billy Elliott in Sydney, he's been over to New York. We've got lots of things. Peter Rutherford, who's musical director for Matilda.
So we're
at the
good at
moment,
nurturing
who's
the talent and then sending them off to...
Yeah, but is that such a bad thing? I mean, that happens all over the world, doesn't it? Australia, most people. And I think you would remain fairly insular if you stayed in your own environment once you learn your craft and improve, you know. And I'm probably saying the wrong thing for this program, but I think it's really good that we do have these people that learn the skills and go back. But again, we've got people like Pippa who bring them back here and come back and start
look, I don't have a
teaching
problem with
again
people
here. So it's circular, isn't it?
learning and training and getting out into the world to do it. I would like them to come back occasionally and build that company here. Krin, I just want to bring you in here because you do run a dance school. Do you have much knowledge of what the other dance schools are doing on the coast?
We work with other dance schools on the coast. I think moving...
So is everything fairly well covered? You're doing the salsa.
Moving from say where I'm from the Central Coast initially, but I spent 10 years in Sydney before coming up here. So moving from Sydney back up here, I do think the coast would benefit a lot from most, if not all, the performing arts working closer together. I mean, the coast is not that big of a place, and we don't have 4 or 5 million people up here, but yet we're very separate. So we really do go out of our way to invite other schools to even use our studio. It doesn't really mind. They can use it, they can hire it, they can perform, they can do whatever they want to do. I just think that the coast can do so much more as far as the performing arts side of things. We invest a lot in bringing artists up here from Sydney and even from Melbourne if we need to, when it comes to workshops and things like that. And you know, that's really our way of contributing. But also we really wanted to start from grassroots up. We tend to specialize more in adults as well. We do a little bit of kids, but mostly we look at the adult side of things. So people who've always wanted to dance and never had the opportunity to.
But you're training people for competition dance mainly.
We also train people in competition as well. So, you know, we also have the youngest ever competitor for the World Latin Cup coming from the Central Coast and representing Australia. That's going to be happening in December this year. So, you know, we do try to fill as many of the gaps as possible within that small niche that we look after.
Okay.
So to speak.
Do we have a question from the audience? I think we've got one lined up, have we? Yes. Tina, we have a vox pop from the audience.
All right, we had a tweet actually about the theatre, but that's been covered, thank you. So we're here with Fiona. She has a question about opera.
I just wanted to know how well has opera been received on the coast to date, and do you think we are able to grow a good repeat audience for the future?
Opera. Is there enough of an audience and production value here on the coast for it? This one goes to you, definitely.
Well, we did help the Globalinks, which was a Minotti opera a couple of years ago, and we actually got, I think, 75% house at Laycock Street for the 2 or 3 performances that we did there. And Magic Flute, we're hoping to do 3 performances at the Grammar School 750-seat theatre. So if we can fill that 3 times, that will pay for a lot of frocks. And generally the Con has done operas intermittently over the last 10, 20 years, starting small and getting a little bit bigger. This is going to be the biggest they've done, I think. But last year, was it early this year, they did a Carmen concert version, which I actually narrated for the symphony orchestra. We've got a symphony orchestra, has its own audience that comes faithfully back every now and again. There's brass bands that have an audience. There's all these Philharmonia choir. There's the what is the other one? The chorale, Central Coast Chorale, and lots of other groups. I mean, I think the biggest loss recently has been Lizottes moving out, because that was a professional venue that we've lost, and there was a great loss. And no one, I'm just so sad that no one else has picked up the torch to keep that going.
And they just couldn't make it financially viable in the end of the day. Basically.
Well, I don't know that that's so much the case. I think it was just that they ran out of, they wanted just to, they thought that their family would take it over, as I understand it, and the kids weren't interested. So they retreated to Newcastle, where they actually owned the venue.
No, they've got a couple of other venues as well, yes.
Well, they've closed DY as well.
Yes.
Oh, did they?
So
Oh,
only
okay.
Newcastle now.
Yeah, so they've only just got Newcastle now.
And
And they're
that's-
keeping it small for themselves, and so they can travel. Yeah.
So in terms of
But
opera,
yep.
classical, generally, you know,
The
orchestral
chorale
music.
have done some opera as well, I believe. Just maybe the concert version, maybe. But
And there's a good audience for that kind of music here?
well, yeah, everything. I mean, I went to a concert of Spanish music, and it was quite esoteric, but the hall was full.
On a personal note, I think there's where Central Coast's hungry for opera, to be quite honest, because the Globelinks was really well received.
Yeah, and it was a very
excellent. And they had young children in the orchestra,
Yep.
young Sebastian, and it was just it was a really
And on stage.
Yeah, yep.
Well, we actually have
Really
got a
good
sponsor, thank God, and thank God for him. He wants to remain
a
anonymous,
single
which is
person.
Yes.
I'm not allowed to tell a soul who he is, and he's giving us money, but it's largely to have. He wants children to be involved on stage, basically, and in the orchestra. And
Perfect show for that, then,
Perfect.
isn't it? Yeah.
But there's not a lot of operas that you can put children in sort of major context, but we'll work on it. Who knows? Well, but this is a good
Should
start.
ask Philip Rutherford to write one.
Yes, he
All
wrote
right.
one a couple of years ago.
He did.
Um,
yeah.
Unless there's anything else you guys want to bring up, I'm going to wrap things up. Thank you all for joining us. I'm just going to do a round and say anything you've got coming up, anything you want to spruik and promote. Pippa?
Oh, well, it's probably being spruiked and promoted for me, but I will be playing Judith Durham in Georgia Girl the Musical, opening in Melbourne, and then coming to Sydney. Unfortunately, not to the Central Coast at this stage, but I could have a word to the producers and see what they want to do.
When does it open?
When does it
We open on the 22nd of December in Melbourne.
And how long's the run down there, do you think?
We'll go until the end of March, and then we'll open in Sydney in April, early
Okay.
April. Yeah.
Okay, I'll get my tickets for April, May. Okay. Before. And Krin, what have you got coming up?
We have the Central Coast Latin Festival. It is just focused on, we're working with Coast Shelter, so it's going to be predominantly a free event around Terrigal and around Central Coast. But if you are a small business and you want to donate some money to Coast Shelter, please contact myself or Coast Shelter, and you will have an incredible time. So yeah, it's open to the public, but we're trying to get small businesses to donate to Coast Shelter. Really, we're just doing it for the fun of it.
Awesome,
yeah.
great. Ross, what's new for GMS coming
What's
up?
new? Well, we're in rehearsal now for Mary Poppins, which is very exciting, and that opens on the 20th of October.
This one I'm not in.
Oh, dear.
Late October, so.
23rd or 21st, somewhere 23rd of October, I think, somewhere around there. And we're having a 4-week run of that, doing about 17 performances, I think.
And that's 4 shows a week or something, is it?
We have generally Fridays, two Saturdays and a Sunday matinee, and that we do that for 4 weeks.
Right.
Yep. Except in the last week, of course, we don't do the Sunday. We finish on the
That's when
Saturday
you
night
wrap.
and have a Thursday night instead. And in January, the end of the school holidays, the children are doing Disney's Little Mermaid, which is awesome. And one of our younger juniors is directing that. And we have it's all junior production, junior cast, junior orchestra, or kids who used to be juniors, you know, and it's very good. And then we've got the Addams Family coming up in
Lots of things. yeah.
March, yes.
Well, if you want to
yes,
find
well,
out
we-
more, go to the website, which you'll see on the lower of your screen now. Tim, what have you got coming up in
We've
Winter
got
Pond?
the Triple Threat course at the Conservatorium, which runs every Saturday afternoon, open to everybody, secondary school age and older. So go right up to.
And that's just a walk-in type course, is it? Or?
Well, no, it's mainly a term by term, but if you can stay the whole year, then we can get to really do the showcase at the end of the year.
Right.
We do 2 showcases every, one in the middle of the year and one at the end, and everyone has a good go. And we're doing the 3: the singing, the acting, and the dancing. And we've got a terrific response from the kids.
And Magic Flute, when's that happening?
And Magic Flute's happening next April.
Next
Buy
year.
a ticket really soon.
Right.
Yes, they're selling like hotcakes. No, first week of April. We're going to have full orchestra. Actually, Bronwyn is doing the dancing for us. The Bronwyn Russell is doing the choreography.
She's a local person who.
And that'll be at the Central Coast, the grammar school.
Grammar school.
Venue.
Yeah.
Right.
Terrific.
Awesome. We're going to wrap things up with a little a short version of our local legend interview with Marg McGowan. Check this out. Marg's a very outspoken lady.
She is.
Hi, welcome to the Litmus Test. We have living legend Margaret McGowan, actress, director, set designer. She's done it all in theatre, amateur theatre. Hi, Margaret.
How do you do? Glad to be here.
Yeah, it's really good to hear your life story.
Well, when you asked me to come along, I dragged at all my various bits and pieces, and I find it quite terrifying. I've been on the coast for 43 years.
Wow, that's my age.
I just realised it. Yeah, well, I came here when you were born. There you are. Two great events in the same year.
It was a good year.
It was a good year, yes.
So you started out as a high school teacher, you and your husband?
No, we started out as adult students at Wagga Teachers College for primary. And back then, if you went on to university, they paid for you to do it by correspondence. So we ended up as high school teachers. And we came here in 1972 as two English teachers. Well, Brian was English history, I was English drama. at Erina and the Entrance.
And ended up in drama.
Moved straight into local theatre, of course. Phil Bennett tracked me down, the great Phil Bennett from Gosford Players tracked me down, and I went and directed The Importance of Being Earnest for them, which was my first show on the coast. So, no, we got involved with theatre at Teachers College, and as we moved around the bush, we were always in amateur theatre companies. So the moment we got to Gosford, that's what we did.
So is your husband an actor as well?
Brian was an actor until he got into politics.
Right.
And then it stood him in very good stead.
Right. That's good.
He was a great speaker. Yes.
That's excellent.
Yes. And very interested, of course, in getting theatre space on the coast in particular, and encouraging the arts, which is not the thing you do as a backbencher normally.
Right. And so had you always wanted to be an actress?
Not really, no. I caught the bug at Teachers College. I doubt I'd ever seen very many stage shows at all. I remember the first stage show I saw, a friend who realised I'd never seen live theatre, and she took me to see Paint Your Wagon in Sydney, and the chorus were the boys from the Borovansky Ballet, and they came out in little tight jeans with little picks and shovels, going, "Where are we going? We don't know. When will we get there? I'm not certain." And that was it. I thought, I'm never going to see live theatre again as long as I live. It's totally silly. Then she took me to see Bonaventure.
Right.
And I worked out what it was about. So yes. And Teachers College just gave us a chance to study drama for 2 years, basically.
That's great.
And go in a lot of Gilbert and Sullivan's and plays and things.
And how did you learn directing? And
I think you learn directing by doing it. I think it was Peter Hall said that the way you learn to be a director was you find a group of actors who are prepared to trust you, and you direct a play. But you learn as you go along, and I've been to all the various, summer schools and weekend schools and things like that. And we've had some great directors, of course, come to the coast. Professional directors have been hired to come to the coast for various plays.
So what's been your most interesting play or musical that you've been in?
Goodness. Well, there's a list of over 100 to pick from. I started in plays, first of all, with Gosford Players. And then it would have been 79, I started writing a column for the local paper, a weekly voluntary column for the local paper to publicise local theatre.
Called Centre Stage.
Called Centre Stage. So I thought, well, I better find out what the others are doing. So I went along and worked with Gosford Musical Society, starting off in a pantomime as a pirate captain with a parrot on my shoulder.
As you do.
As you do. And I dressed early one Saturday, decided I'd save time, and I drove in my full pirate gear with a parrot on my shoulder, and I stopped at a stoplight, and the person in the car next to me nearly had an accident.
Staring at your parrot.
And then I went up to Wyong, and what did I do at Wyong? Let me think. Oh yes, I went to Wyong Drama Group, and they were doing a musical called Do I Hear a Waltz? And halfway through it, the director went to Tasmania. So I learned how to direct musicals very quickly.
Wow.
And years later, I did it again for Gosford Musical Society, Do I Hear a Waltz? Lovely Sondheim show, very nice. And then, of course, I got involved with Woiwod Little Theatre and did some shows with them.
So what are your aspirations for theatre?
Oh, more of the same. Still directing. Still directing acted readings. Would love work at doing that. I've done one show with the Juppies. I'd love to do another one with the Junior Theatre. And, of course, just going to lots of plays, because I love going to plays. And more of the same, more of the same. Hoping they will revive Vagina Monologues.
I'd love to see that.
Well, the 10th year anniversary is coming up. I'm more than happy to step forward and do it again.
Yeah, I'd love to see the next one. That'd be great. Well, thank you, Tina Awake, for Litmus Test. We'll see you again next time.
Thank you all for watching. That's the end of our show for today. If you want to catch us on the web, it's thelitmustest.com, or follow us on Facebook. There's also the full version of our local legend package with Mark McGowan on our website coming up in a few days, so check that out. Thank you to GMS, Gosford Musical Society, for all of our set dressing. Thank you to all, cast and crew, and thank you once again to Just Between Us, who'll take us out. Thank you, girls.
This next song is about that special someone that you might not always know about.
I have always been the one for you, and you come and you ask me, who do I love? And I say it's you. And I have always been the one to try to help you, and I will never lead you astray, 'cause I think I love you. I really don't know about you. I can't stop this feeling deep inside of me. Yeah, I can't stop this feeling deep inside of me. I can say that I don't know that the only ways to go. Said the only ways to go I will protect you in whatever you do. I will be there. And I know that you don't know that I really care about you. I can't stop this feeling deep inside of me. Yeah, I can't stop this feeling deep inside of me. I can say that I don't know that the only ways to go. Said the only ways to go away. I can't stop this feeling